Hello, this is the RPG Pundit, the final boss in Internet Shitlords. And today I'm going to be doing another section of my design notes on Baptism of Fire. But before that, I have a very happy comment to make, if you haven't already seen the post about it, regarding my previous video. So I had done that video to highlight what was going on, the toleration of this these guys with their anti-Semitic restrictions in their crit awards in their award ceremony. I had assumed that it wasn't likely to be able to make any real change in a place like Gen Con, but less than 24 hours after my video, Gen Con has basically given the crit awards the boot. So its result, it's fantastic. It's very good. And of course, Gen Con hasn't said anything about why. The crit awards had an official statement where they said that they could not perform the ceremony at Gen Con because of safety concerns, as if they were afraid that gangs of club wielding rabbis would assault them or something. But in point of fact, one of the guys, I think Critical Bart is his name, the one that was going to MC the ceremony, went rogue on Twitter, and he said that Gen Con had kicked them out. It's not that they left because of safety concerns. Gen Con booted them, and he accused them of, having taken money or something like that. So it's pretty gross. But it worked, right? I mean, it turned out to have a positive result. So that's a surprising but happy conclusion. All right, so getting back to Baptism of Fire now. In our last design note video, which feels like quite a bit ago, we had gotten up to the part on classes, and you should check out those in the playlist for this. So now we get to our next one is miracles and magic, right? This is one of the biggest differences. Like, as you know, Baptism of Fire, there is a OSR game. It's basically the new version or rather an expanded edition of Lion and Dragon. This, by the way, is how you do an expanded edition right, not like what we're seeing in the player's handbook of 5e now. And in any case, it has, in most cases, most of the functions of a typical OSR game. But one big difference in both Lion and Dragon and Baptism of Fire is that the magic system I use is different. This does not have Vancian magic. So Vancian magic is the typical magic of D&D, where your cleric or your magic user memorize spells, and there's different levels of spells, and you end up having to memorize a certain amount per day and then cast them, fire and forget, that sort of thing. All of my magic and miracles, this being a medieval authentic game, is based on actual medieval concepts. So, like, for example, for miraculous powers, I tried to choose a selection of what are some of the most common Christian miracles that you would be likely to see. Similarly, like in Sword and Caravan, when I did the Sufi, I did like the most common powers associated with Sufis, right? Which are slightly different than the typical miracles associated with saints. So you have a character who is capable of miraculous powers, a holy man or a holy warrior. Anytime that they get, as a result of the roll on their advancement table, a new miracle, they would then roll on the sub-table out of the 8 options that you see for per class. Now, holy men and holy warriors in this game, one big difference from Lion and Dragon is that I've split the cleric into 2 different classes, the fighting class and the lore keeper class, right? And so the miracles of the holy warrior are different from those of the holy man. The holy mans are obviously less combat focused, right? So in comparison with Lion and Dragon, instead of there being 8 miracles, there aren't 16 because some of them double up, but there are a few extra ones. which are mostly in the form of stuff for holy warriors to get more blessings in combat and so on. So to be able to perform a magic check, whether it's a miracle or a spell, so to say, for an arcane character, what you will do is roll a d20. It's the same procedure as the skill check. A d20 plus the relevant attribute, which in the case of the cleric is wisdom, or of the holy man is wisdom. In the case of the magician types, it's intelligence. And if you're a class that performs miracles or that does magic, you add your level. And I say as well, technically, in the main rule, there's nothing. The main rule book, there's nothing that a non-holy man or holy warrior or cleric could do that would require a prayer check, right? But I mean, there is the supplement, the RPG Pundit Presents issue called Cult of the Saints, where even people who aren't holy people can try to invoke the assistance of the saints. So that would be an example of a prayer check where you wouldn't add your level if you're not like a cleric, right? But you could still do a prayer check and it could give you a result. In terms of magic, on the other hand, there's a number of magical techniques that in theory anyone could try. But the difference is that if you're not a magician class, if you're not one of the ones that's been trained in magic, you're only rolling a d20 plus your intelligence. You're not adding your level. Okay, so you have just 8 powers if you're talking about holy men and holy warriors. Magicians have more, but I did this very much on purpose. So these are like the most common powers, and I figure that by the time you've got all 8, based on how the advancement table numbers work, you would usually be a pretty powerful holy man or holy person or whatever, right? What I mean is a cleric or a holy man or a holy warrior, depending on what system and what class we're talking about. But in all cases, it usually would statistically take a while to be able to get all 8. I've had a lot of characters that have run long campaigns and they don't have all of them, Now, once in a while, you can have something like we've had in my current Baptism of Fire campaign, where you have a guy who's playing a holy man, and the holy man, I think like by the time he was level 4, 5, or something like that, has gotten all 8, right? So he's already full. And what happens then is that you get divine intervention. So divine intervention is basically if your character has all of the 8 miracles, they're then capable of appealing directly for divine assistance, for divine intervention to God, which you can use at any time where there's some great kind of crisis. But it must be for a significant cause. You can't just do it for some casual reason, right? If somebody's life is in danger, that always more or less classifies. If it's of benefit it's to benefit a person or other people, it usually shouldn't be you if you're the holy man, right? And it should be probably people of the that are Christian people that are and faithful to the church. And every time you do a divine intervention, you have to do, it's the same thing. You do a check, but it's a very tough DC 22. So obviously that cleric that we have in my game, or that holy man rather, that got all 8 of the miracles, he can theoretically now do divine intervention, but it's pretty unlikely that he'll succeed. Now, if you do succeed, you end up, after the miracle has been granted to you, there's a random table that will provide you with a divine mission that God will demand of you in exchange for the rescue that he gave of you in that divine intervention. So every time you use it, you end up having to generate some kind of a task, some of which can be relatively simple, like convert one person. Some of which can just be done kind of alongside standard adventuring. So like he has to kill 2d10 enemies of the church as an act of militant faith. Yeah, that'll probably be something if you're playing with a Christian group and you're going around in the timeline of these wars of religion that were going on in the place. That'll probably work itself out for you. But if you get some results, they become like basically their own sort of quests, right? Like the PC must go to a place in the wild to seek the blessing of a holy hermit. The hermit might require some help, which you might request before the blessing is given, right? So this is about getting like adventure cues in there, right? Magic, the mechanics work the same way, but the magical systems here are obviously they're not granted by God, but rather through the knowledge of secret arts. All magician characters usually start with summoning, which is, if you've got Lion and Dragon, you're already familiar with this. It's basically identical. The ability to summon and potentially bind demons. I guess some people could just make pacts with demons. Neckbeardia was very excited about the idea of making pacts with demons in the video he did about this game. He was like, well, why wouldn't everybody do it, you know? And so, I mean, obviously the answer is that binding a demon in the name of God is a completely acceptable act. Making a pact with the demon is definitely not. The demon summoning rules have often been praised in Lion and Dragon. They're set up so that it's relatively easy at the beginning. Once you have the resources to get you need some tools. Once you have those tools, and if you get access to the name and sigil of a demon, then you can start summoning, right? But when you do summon, there's a lot of potential risk, but there's also like really big rewards that are potentially there. Like a demon has a percentage chance of teaching you a whole extra magical technique when you summon them, right? So there's that's a big benefit. And they have all kinds of other powers. They can kill people for you. They can do all kinds of things. So the temptation is big, but there's also certain risks, right? Like there's the risk that you might accidentally get possessed by the demon, or that you won't be able to banish it. And of course, the social risks that if you are interpreted, truthfully or not, as attempting to worship demons or something like that in these rituals, you can get in trouble. Okay, so the other magical skills you gradually can get in a similar way through the advancement tables. Some of them are singular use. Others have multiple aspects and that can have to be taken multiple times to get all of the different abilities they have. So you'll recognize some of these from Lion and Dragon: astrology, astrological talismans. These are essentially reprinted right out of the L&D rules. Banishing, also. Battle magic, same thing. Cures, similarly. And then we have enchantment, which is something that isn't in Lion and Dragon's, the main book. It's the magic to manipulate people's minds, right? It's a very fairy/pagan magic. Folk magic. So this is also something that wasn't in the Lion and Dragon core rules. Glamour, which is the magic of fairy illusions, which again is a new one compared to Lion and Dragon. The runes, which are also new in there, because obviously nobody was using the runes by 15th century England, but in 10th and 11th century Poland, they were all over the place because you had the Vikings were very frequently engaged in trade and travel and everything else in this region. And in fact, the last pagan Viking outpost was in northern Poland, in the area of Poland in Pomerania, where those were where the most Polish pagans were too, right? They were the ones that had resisted being converted, you know. And so they were all kind of ganging up together there. Regarding the runes, you know, Neckbeardia's famous review points out this whole, okay, so you got rune charms, but all it is +1 to stuff. And then he somehow missed the whole section on bind runes, which if he'd read, I'm pretty sure he would have thought was extremely cool, you know. So, like, there's the... Which one is that? There's one of these that involves having to like skin a human being and wear their skin as pants. Like that's how crazy some of this stuff is. I can't find it now, I think. Oh no, here it is. The Nabrokar. So, like, you know, it's you have to get the permission of someone that will agree to let you use their skin to make the Nabrok after they die. And then you have to carefully flay the skin from the waist down while keeping it all in one piece, and then perform a ritual that'll empower it, and place it in there along with a coin, right? And so if you put those pants on, those human pants on, it'll fuse to your own skin. Every day you can withdraw a single coin of the same type that he put, and you put it down and you're like, it's from your underwear area, right? So it's just magic where you're like using a dead friend, I guess, to get 1 coin per day. But they're also like cursed pants, because for having done this terrible thing, you're damned to hell after your own death, unless you can convince another person to freely agree to take the pants from you. If that pact is made, then the pants are transferred immediately. They will defuse from you, and you can put them on the other guy, and then the curse will be passed on to him. So it's and that's from real history, right? That's just that's one of the records of runic magic. Then we have spirit magic, which is the magic that the Skomrozni use, which is based on it's basically a combination of it's actually based on trance, but in appearance it looks like a lot of playing music and chanting, right? Finally, alchemy is not in this rule book because it's just too advanced for the time period. So alchemy is one type of magic that you have in Lion and Dragon that you don't see in Baptism of Fire, which is not to say there can't be alchemy here, because in theory, like, there might have been a tiny number of people who might have had some alchemical stuff somewhere in Poland, or you might have like people passing through from places where alchemical study would be more credible, like Byzantium. They could have had it. So like you can use the stuff from alchemy in Lion and Dragon here with no problem. So that's basically everything I wanted to share about the magic system. If you have any questions about the magic system, or there's anything you want to know, let me know in the comments. Next time, I guess we're going to get into economics of the setting. And I hope you're liking these design notes. Just remember that these kinds of review videos don't tend to get as many views as when I'm ranting about WotC or whatever. So, so if you can, please share these videos anywhere you think people will find it interesting. And hit the like button and hit subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. And check out, besides Baptism of Fire, you can check out all of my other products. If you hit the More button in the description there, that should expand the description, and you'll see there's links to all of my books and all of my stuff. In particular, I'll mention that we just finished, it just came out and has just been now replaced. It's no longer the latest issue, but it's the one before this one of the Pundit Files. That was, I think, issue 14. It's the Medieval Authentic Guide to Poznan, and that's basically the first supplement I've done for Baptism of Fire. It's a whole city guide of the second biggest city of Greater Poland, and it's the commercial hub, and it's got this really weird, interesting magical wood, and all of this is based on real history, right? And so you get all the details and adventure cues and all kinds of things. You should check that out, and being the Pundit Files, it's only available at the Red Room. As I said, we now have the new issue has come out, which is called I think it's just called Weird Magic Items or something like that. But it's a collection of all of the really weird items that have come up more or less in the second half of the last few years of my Last Sun campaign. So it's from World of the Last Sun. So it's got some really crazy stuff in there. It's got, about a dozen, well, a little under a dozen, maybe. No, maybe it's a dozen, yeah. Magic weapons, and then it's got a number of different rings, horns. It's got the cursed cards of Heck. It has the Trident of the Seamen. It has the Hand of Alan Moore, and a number of other things. Of course, the Horn of Gonzo. All kinds of very unusual magic items that range from being, pretty badass to secretly a trap and to just weird, but wonderful. So be sure to check out that issue as well. All the issues of the Pundit Files are only found on the Red Room in the Red Room store, and they all cost $3.50. Okay, so go check it out. For $3.50, you can get a really good product on PDF, the supplement that you're bound to find one now. Now that we've got like 15 of them, probably already I can say one out of those at the very least is going to be of interest to you. And if you've got 10 times $3.50, you could get 10 of them, right? So just check it out. Just get some, find a way to get $3.50 and then buy one of the Pundit Files. All right, I guess that's everything for today. Currently smoking nothing because if you might have noticed, I've got a very slight cold today. So that's it for today.